This is Josephine the Supreme, and welcome to Women in Horror with the Horror Meister, Monty G.
Y'all ready for this? Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Monty G. Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Monty G. Welcome once again to another episode of my awesome series, Women in Horror, where we celebrate the contribution women have done with this fantastic genre of filming. And of course, I have a great new friend of mine here. I saw her videos on TikTok, then of course on Instagram, and I checked out her YouTube channel. She is Josephine the Supreme.
Hello.
Yeah, she has some awesome content. Now I'll have a link to her description of all her social media links in the channel. Just give a little brief description about yourself, Josephine.
Yes, so I am Josephine the Supreme. Yes, from American Horror Story Coven, because that's the best season of American Horror Story. So I have always, I grew up on PG spooks. So Halloween Town, as you probably see in the back, a lot of witches. A lot of just the Disney Channel spooks, and it just has grown into now just everything horror. I love everything horror.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so basically, my series is what I do as I get women such as yourself, where you have a podcast, a YouTube channel where you've actually written horror authors or written screenplays, or you do cosplay and anything like that. And I just talk about all what women have done in the contribution of horror, because I believe without women, we would not have the fantastic genre that horror is. So obviously my first question to you is, now of course we all know women are not supposed to like horror. It's bloody, it's gory, it's sickening, you get killed. And my question to you is, what drew you into horror? What was the actual first horror film that you saw that got you into horror?
So this is to me, it's kind of like a two-parter, because when I first got drawn into horror specifically, that was more of when I looked at Scream, when the 1996, or I know it was in the 90s, but when the OG Scream came out, Ghostface, love it. Now, when I got into the spooky, supernatural, paranormal, anything in that realm, it was honestly Halloween Town, Hocus Pocus, because those movies and those films especially made me feel like, okay, I'm not really the weird one for liking this kind of stuff. There's a whole other group of people and a group, a world out there that really does accept people like me, that just likes the strange and unusual.
Well, people like us.
yes.
Yeah, people like us, yeah, because as Nancy said in The Craft, we are the weirdos.
Exactly. Craft is such.
I bet that's one of your favorite horror films too.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting that. How old were you when you actually saw Scream, or actually when you saw Halloween Town?
So I was definitely under 10. I'm not, listen, y'all, I'm old, okay? I'm
old. I'll be 63 in August, so.
I'm a little up there, but it was definitely under the age of 10. And then Scream, I was a little too young to watch it, but I still did. And I was like, I love this. It's the adrenaline rush. It's controlled chaos. That's why I love haunted houses, stuff like that. It is this is not safe for you. This is bad, quote unquote, for you. But it's that adrenaline rush of just being but I want to be in it. I want to see if I can survive.
Okay, so my next question to you is, what are your thoughts regarding how women have been treated in horror films?
So, and it's kind of funny you asked this. So I have a convention called BullyCon, and in one of the panels we have a Housewives of Horror panel that we specifically talk about these kind of topics. I think that women have just been shown as just overly emotional, overly, over the top. Think about Pearl, think about Maxine, Mia Goth, those characters. And granted, yes, we can be emotional. Obviously, we can be up there, but we can also be calm, cool, and collected, and really be the final girl like Sydney is. Be a final girl like Nancy. Like we can outsmart the killers. We can survive the killers. Honestly, better than some of the men out there in the movies. So I'm just saying, Sydney's still alive after all these years. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, because I think when it comes to horror films, I think women have we've seen the typical damsel in distress films back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, but I think right around the 60s and the 70s we see a change about how women were presented. Women started to become more smart. They actually started to show women more respectful. When you take a look at the original Black Christmas, we see Elizabeth Hussey's character. She doesn't want to get married to her boyfriend because she says, "No, I don't want to get married. I want to complete college. I want to do something for myself before I eventually want to sit down and have kids," which was something you really didn't see back then in horror films. Back then, it was the damsel in distress, screaming and hollering, and maybe she stumbles, and all of a sudden he's the bad guy. But as you say, when you see women like Sidney Prescott, Ellen Ripley, some of the more modern final girls right now, they actually are smart. They actually are intelligent. They actually don't stumble and fall down. They actually do what they do necessary in order to beat the bad guy.
Is it Ready or Not? Love her.
Oh, yeah.
And then Black Christmas, I'm glad you said that. That is such an underrated horror movie in general, I feel like. That is such a good movie. Now I'm going to have to watch it again.
Okay, next question is, how do you feel, speaking about final girls, how do you feel about the evolution of the final girl trope in horror films? Because, we take a look at the final girls, outside of, even with Laurie Strode in the original Halloween, she just happens to accidentally defeat Michael Myers. But now we have, we see Sidney Prescott, we have Nancy, we have all these, we have Samara Weaving from Ready or Not. We have whatchamacallit from You're Next. They're smart, intelligent women, and they know how to kick ass.
Yes. I'm loving it so far. I really am. I think that I'm ready for other stories like Sydney. I do personally, just my opinion, I do think that Sydney needs to rest, especially after the most recent Scream movie, but I think that we are in a place that we can have those stories over the years, those developed backgrounds of the women in horror and of the final girls, and they can be smart. They can oh my gosh, Brittany Snow in Prom Night was really good. I loved her in that. I think that we're getting shown as just really strong female characters now. I think that the whole damsel in distress, oh my gosh, I'm gonna run like a girl, all that stuff is just completely going out of the window because they know that we're just not built like that anymore. We want to be in the action. I feel like women want to be in the action now. And I think the directors are knowing that.
Yeah, because I think what the final girl was in the beginning, she was the nice, quiet, virgin-y girl. She didn't have any problems, but now we get to see final girls, they're flawed. They're not perfect. They're not the virgins. They might have trauma suffering in their backgrounds, but they know how to survive and they know how to fight back. So that's why we're seeing these strong characters, final girls like Sidney Prescott, like Samara Weaving in Ready or Not, or like Sarah Vincent from You're Next. Some of these tough girls. Yeah, I was even Zazie Bates from They Will Kill You.
Yeah, you gotta worry. Honestly, you gotta really worry about us now. Don't worry about us. We might go a little crazy on you, but it's okay.
Now I don't know if did you ever see The Descent?
Yeah. Yes, that is a comfort horror movie that I do watch just randomly because that's what we do. We just watch horror movies on a random Sunday because that's normal. I do. Yes.
Compare The Descent, which has an all-female cast, to the all-male cast to The Thing.
I think for that though, even regardless of how strong, how badass we are, there still is a relationship factor, a womanhood, a sisterhood. among even those characters. I mean, we know obviously like that what happened, and one of them got trapped, and in the Descent too, like she didn't, really kill her friend the way that she should have. I'm just saying, but I think that there still is like that girlhood there that we still want to like, we still have that softness. I feel like as women, we still, want to help people get out of the situation. We want to see everyone be that final girl with us. Versus, I think like if it's a cast full of guys, unfortunately, y'all are gonna pummel each other before we will. At least try to pummel each other. We still have like that sisterhood that like, oh, you're my girl, like you're my girl. I think we're always gonna have that if it's like an all female cast.
Yeah, because when you take a look at the thing and the situation that they're in, and they're ready to rip each other's guts out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Out, But in the Descent, yeah, even though we know that obviously Juno had an affair with Sarah's husband, but they're still trying to pull together and bond with each other and make sure they escape the nightmare they're in. I just brought that up because it is a comparison. Because at the time we really didn't see a film like The Descent, with just an all-female cast, and that I thought that would be a nice comparison when we saw, between that and The Thing.
No, yeah. Even like Sorority Row, and even when you see a lot of the all-female cast, I mean, I don't know, do you watch American Horror Story a lot?
Oh, yeah. I've seen every season.
So, Apocalypse, even, listen, the coven came through at the end.
Mm-hmm.
They did come together. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're going to be together.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a difference between a heroine in a horror film to a final girl?
I think so. I think I would consider, we could just use Sydney just because it's a good example that I think a lot of people would know. I would really consider her more of a heroine, quote unquote, in the first three versus I would consider her more of a final girl in the later ones. I feel like she just had more of an innocence back then, and it was definitely more of a silent strength, silent just survival with her back then versus the movies, like the later ones, it was very much, just an outward strength. I feel like the Sydney, she was young. She was just trying to understand why she was getting tortured and all this trauma and everything. And I think trauma makes final girls, but I think the heroine is who they are before they get the trauma of being a final girl.
Yeah, because I think when you take a look at some of the horror films now, where we, like I say, take Zazie Betts from They Will Kill You. To me, she's more of the heroine in the film as opposed to the final girl, because she starts out in the film, and then all of a sudden she becomes a badass and she's killing everyone. She's not the last one standing, as opposed to, like, say, that's typical what the final girl is. She's kind of like the heroine. I will also call Sharon Vinston's character in Your Neck. She's more of the heroine in the movie, because she's not the last one standing, because obviously she does kill most of the whatchamacallits, but she's not the last one standing. So that's why I would like to see more of a horror movie where the hero is at the beginning of the film and she's the one that saves everyone. She plays more of a heroine as opposed to being the final girl. I guess most people might consider Ellen Ripley as a heroine in Aliens, but the final girl in Alien.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I think that everyone just thinks that the final girl, quote unquote, is just the last person standing. But a final girl really can be anybody that you deem. I think it's like the person that just has the most strength, honestly, and just can show what they need to do throughout the movie. It doesn't always have to be the last one standing.
No, it doesn't have to be. Yes. Okay, now, obviously during the early slasher days, during the 80s, particularly after Friday the 13th came out, for some reason we could not go about a slasher film without a woman either exposing her breasts, exposing her butt, or even doing full frontal nudity. Do you feel that women were disrespected or objectified during the early slasher films with all that gratuitous nudity that they had?
I do understand that obviously in the film industry, sex sells. It is what it
Mm-hmm.
is. Pretty women sell. Like that is what it is. I think that there is a line like sleepaway camp.
Mm-hmm.
The ending scene to that was just kind of now I know, like, I've been to plenty of conventions. I have my own convention. I understand that like iconic scene is something that people absolutely love. Like,
Mm-hmm.
will always go to her to see. I just think like stuff like that. It's like, okay, let's think about it. How is this going to help the plot of the overall like movie?
Mm-hmm.
What is this really going to do? Like Jason, I feel like you expect to see that because they don't. Jason, I never liked teenagers doing the do at the camp because that's how he drowned. So like that kind of stuff, okay. But if we're just here and I just see a pair of testicles, it's like why? What is this doing for me? What is this? So I think like I understand it to an extent just because it's the film industry, but it's like what's the point of some of this? What is it? So yeah.
Well, I think it's more the filmmakers, especially during the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
They felt as though either adolescent boys or the 18 to
Mm-hmm.
35 market that they coveted so much. Well, we got to get them to the theaters, so we have to have a very attractive woman
Mm-hmm.
expose her breasts or expose her behind or have full frontal nudity to keep them in to get them in the theater, even though most of the time it had nothing to do with the plot. You know.
Mm-hmm. And you gotta think they just didn't think we as women, especially back then, they didn't think that we wanted to go see the movies like that. So they're like, if I have it in there, it's not gonna really offend any women because they're not really coming to see it anyway.
Yeah, that was another thing too, because they did not think women did not enjoy horror films,
Mm-hmm.
because they always thought, well, just like I said, most the average person doesn't think women like horror films, because of
Mm-hmm.
all the blood and the guts and the gore.
Yeah,
Speaking
movies.
of that, do you consider yourself a gorehound?
So I do not, and it's funny because I just did an episode of the podcast called "Too Much Gore, Not Enough Gore," because I personally gore has never been a favorite aspect of it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I just see the blood splatter, if I just see the after effects of it, okay, I can handle that. But like if we're
Mm-hmm.
doing the Terrifier type of gore, it's a little too much. It's a little too much for me. Saw, I've never been a huge fan of it. Like I can do
Mm-hmm.
some of the traps. Like I can do some of the traps, some of this,
Yes.
but like if I just see you pull out intestines from somebody's spine, like it's just like you're doing too much. you're you're what are we doing? Like I need you to calm down. Like what are we doing? That's why I love Scream because I feel like Scream, even as a slasher, like it still has not been to me. It's not even a bad slasher.
Yeah,
Like as
yeah.
far as gore.
Outside, I would say outside of Scream 4, which I thought Scream 4 was the goriest of all the Screams so
Oh, with the
far.
jail, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. I think most of them has just been your typical. It's been bloody at times, but they
Yeah.
basically just stuck with just typical practical blood effects, but not necessarily gory, other than just gore. But it's interesting because lots of time, most people don't think women are gorehounds. Although since I've been doing this, I've seen a lot more women have actually admit that they have no problem with gore. As a matter of fact, they love it. They love
I
it.
mean, I get a queasy little stomach. I ain't gonna lie, I got a sensitive stomach. So I just got a little stomach. So that kind of stuff, like, I wouldn't, like, turn away or anything from it. I would just be like, okay. Like, it just doesn't do much for the overall movie, just for me personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there are times it does require to have it, but sometimes I
Yeah.
think filmmakers have a tendency to overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
My only problem with the substance was at the third act. I thought they overdid it with the
Mm,
gore.
yeah.
The
I
gore
can see
effects.
that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
I mean, I understand the purpose, but I thought, okay, that's enough. We
Right.
get the
Like,
point, but now this is a bit too much. Now it's
yeah.
not. Now it's losing its effectiveness as a great horror film.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the rape revenge films, and do you think a male writer director can faithfully make them, or do you think that's more of a woman's a director woman writer that can make rape revenge films?
So I think that male directors can definitely do that only because I feel like they can bring a sense of intensity that women directors possibly cannot, because you got to think, God forbid if something like that were to happen to you, you're just on the receiving end of that. You don't know from a man's point of view, really like what they're thinking, and they could direct the men in a certain way in the scene. Like, I spit on your grave. Watch that one time, can never watch it again. Will never watch it again. That I didn't like. I knew the premise of it, but I didn't realize the scenes were going to be as like in there as it is. So I think that personally, I think that they can definitely make it a little more intense. I don't know. And then I don't know. Have you ever watched Megan is Missing? It's on Netflix.
I've heard about it. From what I understand, a lot. Some people enjoyed it. Some people didn't. But I never saw it though. But I did get the premise of it. It's kind of like a found footage film where the woman actually gets missing, and her friend tries to go find her, and unfortunately winds up in the same fate that she does.
Exactly. And it's definitely in that genre, and that one is still as jarring to me as I Spit on Your Grave. Like, I watched it one time and I cannot watch it again. I cannot.
Was that the original or the remake?
The original. I cannot even watch the remake.
Trust me, the remake is as far as I'm concerned, the assault is just as brutal or even more brutal than the original, but the revenge is even more brutal than the revenge in the original. It's like I get the reason why they made the assault very brutal, because they wanted for you guys to hate the guys that are doing this to the poor woman, and that the fact is that when she gets her revenge, and you're cheering her on because these men deserve it.
Yeah, that's why, like, I think that male directors can. I mean, it's kind of it's a morbid fact, but they can make us be able to hate the men because at the end of the day, they have the minds of that situation more so than a woman director would.
Yeah.
So I feel like they can make us as women make sure that by the time we got the revenge part, that we're ready for the revenge.
Yeah, because they do it. In the remake, they actually did a nice job of after the assault, and next thing you know, they can't find. She's disappeared, and I guess you say she's fucking with them in the beginning before all of a sudden she disappears out of nowhere, and next thing you know, she's just beating the shit. I mean, not just beating them, torturing them.
It kind of makes me want to watch the remake now. Just just for that.
Do you think women directors of horror films are finally getting the respect that they deserve?
I think so. I mean, you gotta think I would say, honestly, within maybe like 2 or 3, I've been doing like content creation in general for like 4 years. Like, and I've taken it super serious, I would say, for the last like 2 to 3 years, really just trying to grind it out. And I've seen so many women content creators coming up. And people like women doing short films, women doing a lot of just independent projects. Like, one of my friends did a Buffy the Vampire Slayer documentary, whole shindig. So I think that we're learning that this is becoming more of a female, I wouldn't say dominated, but we can definitely bring a new perspective to it. And people are listening. And I think that we're just getting more comfortable being like, okay, we're a woman that loves to look at weird things, that loves to just be in horror movies, be a part of horror movies. So I think that we're finally kind of getting that space.
Yeah, it is no longer a male-dominated profession.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think one of the things that I find fascinating, there was a woman on Instagram. She used to actually put up practical effects, and some of the practical effects she made were fantastic. I said, wow, this is fascinating. Yeah. So this is no longer a male-dominated industry like most people believe that it was.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And like the special effects, the makeup, things like that, that just brings a whole new aspect to it that we can kind of, we can mix the world of glam and gore and, do some fun stuff.
Yes, yes. Now the fun question.
Okay.
So, how did you come to create this massive social media called Josephine the Supreme? Because obviously you're a fan of American Horror Story Coven, but what led you to create all this?
So I've always started like all of my videos, everything like that, with hello little ghoulies. Like I've always just been a very like ghoulish, Halloweeny type of individual. And honestly, like one of my friends just called me because my real name is Joanna. So like
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends just called me Josephine one time, and
Mm-hmm.
and then I always call myself the Supreme. So I was like, Josephine the Supreme just sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of built that up, started doing my own videos and everything, and then I have just collabed with a lot of like different content creators, and always just when you're calling yourself the Supreme and when you're calling yourself Josephine the Supreme, it kind of caught wind, and now everyone kind of knows the Supreme in a way, in a way, like not, everyone knows Josephine the Supreme, so nobody can
Yeah.
take Josephine.
Yes, yes, yes. Most people in the horror community, especially on YouTube, which I've been a part of, are
Mm-hmm.
really going to enjoy you. Because I earlier this year, about as a matter of fact, a couple months ago, I was at a horror convention in Seattle called Crypticon.
Nice.
A couple of my dear horror friends, Corey B. Movie and Danny Nightmare, they invited me over there, and then I got to be on the panel, three panels during that convention. I really enjoyed myself there. So, so
We
that's
need to
going to be
invite
great.
you to ours.
Oh,
We need to invite you to GhouliCon next
hey,
year. It is
hey,
a
look,
content creator based. Like that's what,
yeah,
so I know a lot of the conventions are very like celebrity based and all of that, which is
mm,
quite wonderful. GhouliCon, I did create that as a
mm,
way for content creators to be the prime focus. So like all of our special guests are content creators. All of the panels are content creator led and focused.
mm.
So yeah, you need to come next year so
Oh,
you
yeah,
can.
yeah. I would love to come.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to send you some messages.
Okay, all right. That's good. That's good. The more the merrier.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your favorite final girl and why?
So I know I've talked about Sydney a lot. Now I will
Mm,
not. So that's not really my favorite final girl. I
mm,
still consider this person a final girl. It's not in the movie, but it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy
mm,
the Vampire Slayer is my favorite television show of literally all time. I love the rawness that Buffy had throughout the whole show. They did not show her as always the strongest. They showed her trauma. They showed her growing a lot. Obviously,
mm.
season one Buffy versus season seven Buffy is a completely different person.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like completely different. She even had, times that I believe this was in season one still, but she left to go to New York because she was
Mm,
just like, I can't do this life anymore. Like it just showed her like just really being a true person. And I just love this. I know we talked about the silent strength a little bit for Sydney, but I love that. I love that, when you are you're doing what you need to do as a person, as a slayer, as whatever the
mm.
case may be, but you're fighting so many demons, but you're still showing up for everybody else. And I think that's what Buffy personified to the max. So
Yeah,
that's.
I've always enjoyed the Buffy character.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Sarah Michelle Gellar did a fantastic job. Obviously, we see her as a teenage girl,
Mm-hmm.
graduating from high school, intertwingling with her friends and her
Mm-hmm.
duties as a slayer, her growing up into a character. Obviously, like I said before, for what you said from season one all the way up to season seven, it's a
Mm-hmm.
different Buffy character. We see her strength, but we also see her vulnerabilities. I think one example was great and I think it was the season four premiere where she was going to college, and for
Mm-hmm.
the first time she couldn't fight against vampires like she normally could. She didn't know what she was doing because she was, I guess, a bit overconfident. But I like what they did with that particular setup. It's like, yeah, you're in a new area, but all of a sudden, wait a minute, I failed. what am I
Yeah.
doing? What if I did? Well, she had to relearn herself again, and then finally she got her confidence back, and she eventually killed all those vampires. But I thought it was great to see her vulnerable side, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mhm.
It's unfortunately sad that unfortunately some nitwits at Amazon decided not to greenlight the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I thought it would have been an interesting take.
Oh my gosh, I was so ready. I was so ready.
Well,
And
yeah,
they,
everybody was. Everybody
oh my
was. But
gosh.
unfortunately, in this society that we live right now, it would be very hard to have a character like Buffy be a TV show because unfortunately, the rage haters would rage hate on it. That's what I
Yeah,
call them.
that is very true. That
Yeah.
is
From some nitwit that didn't even see the show. Oh no,
Mhm.
we're not gonna do Buffy. No, we're not gonna do it. And it's like I said, you nitwit.
It was such a good like it. I could do a whole podcast just on Buffy, but
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna save the space because that is literally my favorite TV show of all time.
I know. Yeah, what I'll probably do for another Women's in Horror Month is do a whole thing about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I'll definitely want to invite you on because I would love
Please.
to have pick your mind about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. My final question, Josephine, is if you could create a horror film, what kind of horror film would it be? And I already know what type of subgenre it would be too.
Okay. So, all right, maybe. So, I love found footage. I do. I absolutely love found footage. But I also love folklore, like the urban legends, that kind of stuff. So, I would love to make one maybe of like a found footage / urban legend.
Mm.
Type of situation like the like Until Dawn, those type of games I really love. I just love lore. Like I love different types of like the Backrooms when the Backrooms movie came out. Absolutely love it. I love like the Reddit creepy pasta. I love that kind of stuff. So it would definitely be like in that type of genre, like the VHS franchise or whatnot, even though that had some weird scenes, but that had some weird shit going on. But just like a hodgepodge of just different things going on. That's why I love American Horror Story so much because it had so many of like the hodgepodge plots at the same time that it was just so interesting to kind of go back and forth and then have everything connect. So yeah, it would definitely be like a creepypasta hodgepodge of found footage.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
I'm weird. I'm a weird girl. So I'm weird.
That's okay. I love weird.
But I am a strange cookie, but it's okay. It is okay.
Hey, the weirder the better, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, because there are some decent horror films I saw where they actually dive into some of the other type of mythologies from other cultures. I thought The Ritual was pretty good dealing with Norse mythology. There's a couple of the horror films that come to mind when it comes to either whether it's Japanese mythology or some other type of mythology. That's what I like to do. As long as it's done well and good, then I enjoy it because I love learning about different cultures. How do they perceive horror films? What do they whether it's Korean horror or Norwegian horror. I like to see other forms of horror from other countries. Obviously, we have the South Korean horror with Train to Busan.
That's a classic now. That is a classic. But yeah, I think that because horror in general and like just paranormal spirituality, all that is so different amongst cultures, and I think it is very interesting to see what they deem as scary or what their like version of the boogeyman is. So I definitely love that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right, Josephine the Supreme, it was nice to have you on, learn some interesting facts about you, and then definitely would love to be on that convention with other content creators because you know me, the more horror, the more better.
I'm going to send you some messages because absolutely we would love to have you on some panels and everything. For sure.
Okay, all right, yes. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, Josephine the Supreme, I will have all her links in the social media links in the description box below. I want to thank Josephine for coming on. for Women in Horror. And once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as a Horror Miser Monty G. And always remember, horror rules. And please stay safe out there.